Hi, Scorpio Sun and Rising. Welcome to your July 2025 Astro Update. It's Raina here. July is chock full of things happening, including 3 retrogrades. And the big news, well, that's pretty big, but another big thing that's happening is that Uranus is going into Gemini. And Gemini for you is the house that you rule, the eighth house. So Uranus has been in Taurus since I believe around 2018-ish. Yeah, I think it was 2018. I looked it up. I thought it was 2017 because it seems like it's been here for that long. And it is going to go back into Taurus later in 2025 into 2026 before it returns to Gemini for the duration of that transit. Now, when it's been in Taurus, it's been in your 7th house of committed partnership, the opposite house, the 7th house. And that may have wreaked havoc on committed partnerships because it has such a disrupting influence, or you could say like an erratic influence. It produces unexpected events. And there's a real desire for freedom, independence with Uranus. That Uranian energy for Scorpio can be quite volatile because that is not your nature. Your nature is to become enmeshed with somebody, really, maybe that's like a negative connotation, but saying become deeply bonded with somebody. And this is about being very detached. Okay. And I think it's really a good thing for a sign like Scorpio to experience this because it allows you to see the individual within the relationship. If it's like a healthy situation, there probably were plenty of Scorpio people who, if you were in a committed partnership, found out that maybe it was codependent or that it was otherwise cemented by negative tendencies like jealousy, possessiveness, that sort of thing. So, and by the way, if you have been single during this transit, I'm talking about, Uranus and Taurus, by the way, that you may have been, not really wanting to commit to anybody even if you were dating here and there. So that is going to change on July 7th, but I'm going to get to that when I get there because I want to start at the beginning. So first of all, the sun is in fellow water sign Cancer, and that forms a friendly angle called a sextile to your sun or ascendant, and that can be very good for manifesting things, that you are, the sun has a creative influence, so that can be very good for your life in general. And that is coming from the 9th house. So that's really good for your spiritual life, as well as anything that you're endeavoring to do to expand your life. The 9th house is the house of long distance travel, so it might even be on that level. But if you're trying to go to college or back to college, university, 9th house is that. And your spiritual journey. And the other thing this will be happening all month long, is that Mars is going to be in Virgo. This is actually continuing from June. So Virgo for you is your 11th house. This is the house of friendships and group associations. So this may be quite active at this time if you are an activist, because this is the humanitarian house, and Mars can be that fighting mode, and not just like argumentative or something like that, although it can be disharmony in relationships. In this case would be friendships or the groups that you belong to, but it can be activism. So if you're somebody who tends to be, and there probably are a lot of Scorpios who are like that, people who feel like they have to fight for the rights of others, especially those in underserved communities, those who are oppressed. You may be doing this more than usual at this time. And then on the 4th of July, we have Venus going into Gemini. And so Venus goes into the 8th house. The 8th house is the house that you rule. Venus can be romantic partners or anything to do with, like that sort of thing. It gets very deep in the 8th house. But Venus can be money, and the 8th house can be other people's money. So this has a strong money signature to it. And this could be what's happening for you. The 8th house is the house of like inheritances, for instance. This could be a time when you get paid out for something like that. Also, I would even say like dividends or stocks in general. There are other houses like the 5th house that deal with gambling, but I think even getting paid out, I would say the 8th house, if you're selling a stock or even any kind of cashing in insurance, like life insurance, whatever, that kind of thing. Or your spouse gets a raise, that could be, and you indirectly benefit from that. On the same day, Neptune goes retrograde at 3 degrees of Aries in the 6th house of work. So Neptune and Saturn are in your 6th house. And Neptune is very idealistic and Saturn is very realistic, and they're both going retrograde. This could be a reality check when Neptune goes retrograde. Something that you may have been a bit deluded, is becoming painfully clear to you. This could be even like coworkers that you thought were your friends and you find out otherwise. And it could be like very disillusioning to find out that the people that you trusted were actually deceivers. Or that a type of work that you're doing is not really what floats your boat. Maybe at one time it did, and the profession is changing, the type of work is changing. I said profession, which can be the 10th house, but that to me is your success and status. This is the actual work itself. And sometimes because of changes in the profession, the work that the person is doing changes. An example is teaching. There used to be different policies or the healthcare field as well, which actually the 6th house is about healthcare. That, like the way people used to work might change, and they're like, I don't like the changes. So something may be going on there. On the 7th, Uranus goes into Gemini. So Uranus goes into that 8th house. And when Uranus goes into the 8th, another thing that the 8th house represents is transformation and metaphysics. Metaphysics means beyond the body. So it's really encompassing all the kind of, spiritual books and teachings that are not, like organized religion, like Christianity or Judaism, Islam, that the 9th house is more associated with. The 8th house can be shamanism, Wiccan, those kind of earth religions, astrology, tarot, but just your individual beliefs, I would say, that are spiritual, your individual spiritual path, I should say. And Uranus here could inject it's almost like science fiction, because Uranus rules technology, but star seeds, you may get into the galactic history of the world and how it's, looking at it from that perspective, which is a quite different perspective than, you know, even things like channeled material. It's even different. But you know what? I would put it in that kind of a category because a lot of the ideas that we get, people have gone under hypnosis or they have channeled information that you can't derive from other sources. So I would put channeling with the 8th house or the 12th house. There can also be some kind of sudden, maybe some sudden windfall from an inheritance that you never expected, or money from that suddenly is given to your spouse. On the 10th, there is going to be a full moon at 18 degrees of Capricorn. This will fall in your 3rd house, and this is the house of teaching and learning, communicating in general. So it can be writing, and it's social media, so anything with that. And the full moon here, and also your siblings. So given this Venus in the 8th house, and then Uranus going there, I feel like, I think too, Uranus in the 8th house could be cryptocurrency, that you start to get into that. Because the 8th house is very secretive, and this is a house, secretive money. That sounds like cryptocurrency. Crypto means hidden. So this full moon in the 3rd house, this could be your siblings. Maybe you hear from them, hear something about them, or you realize something about them. If you're dealing with an estate issue, and also it can be aunts, uncles, cousins. So you might be dealing with them with some kind of will, and you may come to a realization about their character or their behavior based on that it could go either way. Maybe you have a sibling that you always thought was selfish, and they get the bulk of the inheritance money, but they split it with everyone. And you realize that they have a lot more good in them that you thought than you thought. On the 13th, but I mean, it could be, full moons can bring things completion or to a head. So, I mean, it could be that you cut ties with one of these family members, I suppose. I always try to put a positive spin, but, sometimes it is what it is. And it might even be better for you if that person has been consistently negative. It might be something where it's actually good for you. On the 13th, we have a Saturn retrograde at 1 degree of Aries. So it didn't get very far. Neither did the Neptune at 3 degrees, but that's because they just recently went into Aries. Now, that is also in your 6th house, and when Saturn is in your 6th house, you feel like you're going to have to really roll up your sleeves and work hard, and you're probably prepared for that. But again, with Neptune retrograde, you may feel disillusioned, and it makes it harder to maintain that discipline. So you may have to restructure things. Saturn is about structure and organization. So it's trying to lay down a foundation. So you're probably in the process of solidifying something work-wise. Maybe you've recently started doing a particular type of job that you've never done before, and you're just trying to get really familiar, what do they call that? Like, um, learn the ropes. And sometimes when people are training for something, they have a certain idea, or studying for something, they have an idealism. And when they actually get out in the field, they get to see all sides of that. And they may not like some very important things about that job. And that can be very disillusioning if you have spent a lot of time and money training for it. Even if you didn't go to 4 years of college for it, it doesn't matter. It still can be very disillusioning because you might have hoped, like some people just do train for something just for the money and the job opportunities. And when you really go day by day, it can feel like a life sentence, I would think, because money isn't everything. Even if it pays a lot of money, if you're miserable every time you get up in the morning, that has to count for something. And especially for Scorpios, because you're so intensely passionate about your life, that anything that isn't a hell yes is probably going to be your worst nightmare, because you know, you're, you know, you might be very indifferent or very adversely affected by something, and that's not a really good situation for anyone, let alone a Scorpio. So just to understand that for the next few months, you might be like uh, thinking about, do I really want to apply my um, energy into this, sink of my energy into this profession? Saturn rules the 10th house of career. So in the 6th house, it's like, how does the work compare to where I want to be? And on the 18th, Mercury goes retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. Leo is a fellow fixed sign. And oh my gosh, how perfect is this? There must be some kind of connection here, because Leo is your 10th house of career. And Mercury retrograde is rethinking your career. So for the next few weeks, be intentional. Don't just focus on, oh my gosh, everything seems like it's turning upside down with my work, my career. Say, this is happening for me. What am I here to learn about this? What messages are coming through? Mercury is very quick moving, so within a few weeks it's going to be direct. On the 22nd, the sun enters your 10th house of career, and that makes you very career-minded. 2 days later, we have a new moon in this early degree. Keep in mind that the Mercury retrograde is in full effect, so it isn't necessarily time to act, but it is, unless you get some kind of major, amazing offer, obviously, then you don't want to be superstitious and just kind of turn your back to it. But I'm saying, in general, this may be a better time to really set your intentions, but understand that they will carry more weight when Mercury goes direct. On the 30th, Venus goes into Cancer. So here we have Venus joining Jupiter in Cancer in that 9th house. By the way, when Jupiter is in your 9th house, Scorpio, that's a time when you may have more opportunities for travel. So Venus here could be like a love interest who is from another country, from another nationality, which is another country, but another ethnicity. It could be somebody born in your country, but they have a different ethnic makeup or racial makeup that you have fallen in love with or that you are interested in romantically. Who knows? Maybe you'll visit them at some point. Okay, that's what I have for you, Scorpio. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my package deals because it's more bang for your buck. One that you may be particularly interested in is called my deep dive reading, which is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for a special price. I believe I will be offering this at least temporarily for $88, this package deal, US dollars. The prices can fluctuate from week to week, but that's what I think I'm going to be setting it for, at least at the time of this posting. It might be $5 more when you see it. I don't know. But I offer these readings individually, so it's quite a savings when you buy them together, and they belong together. If you like the tarot as well, there's a full-length tarot reading that's included with those two readings called The Whole Enchilada for a special price. And I have career readings, love readings, etc., etc. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.